Love was not in their looks, either to God or to each other, but apparent guilt and shame, and perturbation, and despair, anger and obstinacy, hate and guile. Whence Adam, faltering long, thus answered brief, I heard thee in the garden, and of thy voice afraid, being naked, hid myself. I found this dumpster bunker. I don't really know what it's called. Dumpster house. It has some kind of religious lamentation written on the wall in it. Dumpster church. I like the idea of this because it ties a very sacred idea to the most profane, lowest place, symbolically, a dumpster. My Instagram name is Scum Choir, so if that's any indication, this type of aesthetic and juxtaposition is right up my alley. I'm using watercolor pencils today, yellow ochre, burnt umber, and black. My intention was to color with the pencils, then activate the pigment with water from a brush pen, creating a light wash, and then finish the drawing with a micron pen and adding the graffiti with some watercolor. As you'll see, that's not what happened. With paintings, especially paintings you're doing out in the wild, it's good to have a goal in mind, but only as a general idea of what you're aiming at. Something achievable, and also be prepared to have to do something else. You don't want to be too open with no idea of what you're doing at all, but you also don't want to be so rigid that you're afraid to do anything, or that any mistake seems like it's the end of the painting. The details of this scene are what caught my attention and drew me in. The trash and the plea to God and the graffiti more generally, but to depict it the most effectively, to communicate what I find attractive or interesting about it, I can't absorb myself into those details too soon. I need to get the structure down first. I only had about 20 minutes in this spot, and I wasn't able to capture everything I wanted. The watercolor pencil idea didn't go as planned, so I got some photos of it, and I'm going to take it back to the studio to finish it. Generally, with my plein air paintings, I like to finish them on the spot. That's kind of the point. But since I really wanted to get this scene in my book, and since I can't depend on the same graffiti being there next time I go, and since it's fresh in my mind, I made an exception. I set a time limit for myself though, for 40 minutes. That makes a total of an hour for the whole piece, which is generally how long I take for a picture in this book. Working from photos in the studio invites you to spend as much time as you want on a piece, which is nice, but it's not what the goal for this piece is. I do end up adding more watercolor and gouache than I was initially planning on doing. With painting, sometimes you just have to do what it takes. So I'm gonna leave it here. It's not what I had in mind originally, but I'm quite happy with it. The big wig suits, the corporate mobsters who pull the strings of this channel, who I'm just a puppet for, want me to tell you the following. Let me know what you think about this video in the comments. I told them how lame that is, and that there's no way it actually works, and that it's just something that people do because people do it. But they puffed on their cigars and firmly put a hand on my shoulder, looked me dead in the eyes with those soulless shark eyes. And they whispered, "What's good for your life is what's good for business. So do what's good for business." I told them that there's no way that doing cliche influencer stuff is what's best for business. And they chuckled, an ominous chuckle, threatening chuckle, and showed me a picture of my family, and said, "The things that we are willing to lose for pride." So I'm scared. I'm just gonna say it. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys.
No further details available at this time.
Report suspicious activities and call 911 for immediate response. Expect delays, searches of personal property, and restricted access to public buildings. Expect traffic delays and restrictions. Take personal security precautions to avoid becoming a victim of an attack. Avoid crowded public areas and gatherings. Do not travel into areas affected by the attack or in a known area of elevated virus activity.